The next property we'll see is an essential one. It's called justify content. And this determines how the actual elements, how the content is distributed across the main axis. So the default is going to be flex start. That is the property name flex-start. And it's not always on the left-hand side. Let's be very clear about that. But if our main axis goes from left to right, the start is on the left to right. So what I'm going to do is go back to a row, just the standard row for our flex direction. And then I'm going to set justify content to be flex start, just to show you nothing changes. It's still piled up on the left-hand side. Then we have flex end, which is going to take the content and move it to the end of the main axis. So that's how it's going to be aligned along that main axis. If it's going from left to right, the start is left, the end is right. So it gets piled up on the right-hand side, as you can see here. Now we have some other options. We have center. This will center our content along the main axis. So let's try that. Here we go, centered along the main axis. And then we have some others that are a little different. We have space between and space around. Now, space between is going to take all of the extra space and distribute it between the elements, but not on the outside edges. So between elements, but not between the element and the container. So we've got some extra space in here. If we do space dash between, just like that, there we go. So there's a border, just to be clear. That's a border I added. Otherwise, there's no space in this flex container. And the space is all evenly distributed between the elements. Then we have space around, which gives each element the same amount of space around it. So this element has that much space, and then it has that much space again. And then this element has the same half of that, half of that. So it ends up with half of the amount of space on the left and right, which is a bit wonky. There's one more option, which is space evenly. And space evenly just ensures that the space is even between every element and between the elements and the container. So this is all along the main axis. And one of the questions I get a lot from students is, why is it named justify content? Why not name it something more obvious like horizontal alignment or something? But you have to remember, the main axis is not always horizontal. It could go right to left, sure, but it might be top to bottom or bottom to top, in which case the property name doesn't really apply anymore if we called it horizontal alignment. Now, justify content is still kind of confusing. Maybe there's a better way to name it, main alignment or main axis align. I guess that's a bit long, but let me show you what happens here. If I get rid of this here and I set flex direction now, well, let's just do row reverse to begin with. It starts over here. The main axis is right to left now. So flex starts, if I do justify content, is on the right side, and flex end now moves our content to the left side. So very different. I mean, not hugely different, but a different result based upon that direction. Or if we now go and do flex direction column, as you can see here, we're not going to get much to play with at this point. Our elements go from top to bottom. We don't have much space to move them around. But if I made this thing a lot taller, like 1,000 pixels, wow, I'm an idiot. That's exactly the amount of space we need. There we go, 1,200 pixels. I'll just zoom out so you can see the whole thing. Now I can do things like, how about space between or flex end? The main axis goes from top to bottom. So we're distributing space along that vertical axis with the same property. So justify content is not horizontal or vertical. It can be either, depending on flex direction. And that's why it's not called horizontal align or something like that. So if I do flex end, where's it going to go? Well, refresh, bottom to top. It's the end of the main axis. Our main axis right now is a column. It goes from top to bottom. So bottom is the end, top is the start. I can also do, space evenly, and we get our nice even spacing vertically. So that's justify content. It depends on flex direction. The way that it behaves depends on the main axis, and that main axis can change. Let me find my slide. There we go. So left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top. Really is up to you and how you have configured your flex direction. That impacts justify content. And we have yet to even mention the word cross-axis, or I guess it's 2 words. That's coming up next. Okay, I should stop. I'm going to stop talking.